How are you? Um, my name is Wolf Larson, and what I'd like to talk about today is how our government, what word should I use? Disrespecting our troops, disrespecting our young people fighting abroad, disrespecting our veterans. I mean, one reads about veterans or soldiers who are injured and who are not getting the kind of medical care that they need. One hears that there are problems at the VA hospitals with soldiers not receiving the kind of quality medical care that they deserve. One hears about injured soldiers not getting the kind of benefits that they need, getting denied the benefits that they need in order to survive because maybe their injuries prevent them from working, or injured soldiers, veterans in long waiting periods to receive the kinds of benefits that they need in order to survive. This is a tragedy. This is an atrocity. This is a scandal. Okay? I once saw a bumper sticker that said, "Honor the veterans, not the wars." That's exactly how I feel. I feel very strongly against these wars. If Barack Obama wants to have war in Afghanistan and in Iraq and in Libya, why doesn't Barack Obama put on a uniform and an M16 and go over there and fight the war himself? And the same thing goes for George Bush. George Bush is always swaggering around, so why doesn't he go and fight the war himself? And what about these politicians of both political parties who voted for the war? How come they don't go fight the wars? How come their young adult children who are 18 to 20 years old are not fighting in these wars? Very few of the politicians in Congress who voted yes for war in Iraq and Afghanistan have children on the front lines. And why does that not surprise me? Okay? What it is a tragedy is to go and fight abroad and then get injured and come back and receive endless bureaucracy from our government. And that's exactly what many soldiers are receiving. Endless bureaucracy. Now there are some soldiers, they're happy with their treatment. They're good for them. But what about the others that are not? And what about the soldiers that are sick and tired of going back to Iraq and Afghanistan over and over? One reads about how the soldiers go, "Man, I'm going crazy here. I've already been to Iraq and Afghanistan so many times and they're sending me back." And you know what they do for these soldiers? They give them pills. They give them antidepressants. Here's some antidepressants. Go back and fight again. Any soldier that has already fought and does not want to fight again should be allowed to leave the armed forces with a honorable discharge, because he's already fought. Okay? I'm 110% against these wars. I feel very strongly, like I said, that the politicians should go put on a uniform and an M16 and let them go fight the wars. I think it's time that our young people stop being sacrificed abroad for wars that don't make any sense. What's in Iraq? Oil. Okay? What about Osman bin Laden? Well, he's dead. And who was it that trained Osman bin Laden? The CIA, when they were involved in that whole Soviet Union Afghanistan a long time ago. Okay? It was our government that trained Osman bin Laden. Okay? That's very sick. Okay? What I'm talking about is how so many young American lives are being lost in those countries over there, in Iraq and Afghanistan, for nothing. Young Americans are losing their limbs for nothing. You know who these wars are good for? They're good for the war profiteers. War profiteers are people driving around in very fancy cars, have big homes. They're making lots of money from this war. From these wars, I should say. It's absolutely sick what these war profiteers, the profits that they are making from all the human misery. And it's absolutely sick the mountain of dead innocent civilians in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. I am completely against Barack Obama's wars in Afghanistan and Iraq and Libya. Barack Obama has proven that he is no different than George Bush. Barack Obama is a warmonger just like George Bush. Barack Obama is a war criminal just like George Bush. Okay? I don't blame the soldiers. I do blame the politicians that make the wars. And I blame the four-star generals because they're at the top. They're like the high managers of this whole function. Okay? There came a time in many wars when the soldiers got sick and tired of fighting because there was all this endless bloodshed. There's an interesting book called Silent Night, which talks about the Christmas truce in World War I, where the German side and the English-French side, they stopped fighting each other. And they crossed the no man's land, and they made peace with each other. And the lower officers were cool with this. And there was no fighting Christmas. And then day after day the truce went on, and all of these soldiers that had been shooting at each other were now playing soccer. This really happened back in World War I. The German troops on the one side, the English and the French, they all just became friends, and they were drinking and everything. When the generals on the German side found out about this, and the English generals on the other side found out about it, they were very, very mad. And they said they were going to court-martial the soldiers. They said they were going to line up the soldiers and shoot them if they didn't go back to war again. This shows you that in many, many cases of war, the person who you're shooting at, you have more in common with that person than you do with the generals and the politicians and the dictators that sent you to war in the first place. If you're the son of a worker and you're shooting at you're shooting at the son of another worker. Maybe you're the son of a longshoreman, you're the son of a factory worker, you're the son of a construction worker, and you're shooting at the son of a construction worker, the son of a factory worker. He may be a different nationality than you. He might be a different language. He might be a different religion. But you have more in common with that person you're shooting at often than the people, those four-star generals, those politicians, and those dictators who sent you into that miserable war in the first place. Now, if you're in the armed forces because of education, so that Uncle Sam will pay for your college education, personally, you know what I think? I think higher education should be free. It should be a right. You shouldn't have to go risk your life somewhere hoping that you won't get injured or die just so you can get a higher education. Okay? Now I'm about to end this soon, but I also want to point something else out. In Russia, in the World War I, the soldiers got so sick and tired of the war. And they got rid of the Tsar. And they put in a bourgeois, a rich people's democracy. But it was a democracy that represented the rich people. The February Revolution, it was called. And there was still endless war, and the soldiers just got so sick of the war. There was so much pointless bloodshed, fighting for nothing, that finally the soldiers united with the workers and the peasants in Russia. This was in 1917, and they made the October Revolution under the leadership of Lenin and Trotsky. And that is how the Russian soldiers found peace. That is how they got out of the senseless bloodshed of World War I. That is how they saved their own necks. And right now, we're in 3 senseless wars at the same time. Many innocent civilians are dying. The only people who are benefiting from these wars are the warmongers. Okay? So think about who's benefiting from these. Who's benefiting from these wars? The war profiteers, the politicians. Who do the war profiteers give bribes or campaign contributions to? To the politicians. Okay? Anyway, those are some things to think about. And you have a nice day. Good luck. Bye-bye.